Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something I think, well, pretty much everyone grapples with. How do you actually focus? How do you get meaningful things done when the world just seems built to distract you?
Yeah, it's a constant battle, isn't it?
Totally. So we've gathered some really fascinating ideas here. We're looking at Cal Newport's stuff on deep work, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's work on flow, which is that in-the-zone feeling.
Huh.
And Newport even has this interesting take on deep procrastination on his blog. Plus, we've got some thoughts from, online discussions.
Right.
So the mission today is to really get under the hood. What are deep focus and flow? Why should you care? And crucially, how can you use these ideas to learn faster, work smarter, without feeling completely overwhelmed?
Okay, let's dig in. Starting with Cal Newport, maybe. His concept of deep work.
Yeah, good starting point.
So he defines it as basically activities you do with intense zero distraction concentration. You're really pushing your brain, stretching your ability.
To the limit, yeah.
Exactly. And that's how you create, like, real value, improve your skills in a way that's, well, hard for someone else to just copy.
And he draws a sharp line between that and what he calls shallow work.
Right. Shallow work it's all the other stuff. The tasks that don't demand much brain power, the logistical things, checking email, quick replies, stuff you often do while kind of distracted, and it doesn't really produce much new value.
And Newport's got this core argument, his deep work hypothesis. He says, look, the kind of work that requires this deep focus, it's becoming way more valuable in our economy.
Because things are getting more complex, right?
Yeah.
You need to master complicated systems.
Precisely. But here's the kicker. At the exact same time, our work culture, our tools, everything is pushing us towards shallowness, constant pings, open offices.
Making deep work much, much rarer.
Exactly. And that scarcity, he argues, creates a huge advantage for anyone who can deliberately cultivate this skill. He even throws out there that focus is becoming the new IQ, which is quite a statement.
It is a bold statement, but you can see his logic. If you can consistently process complex information deeply while others are just skimming the surface, well, that's a powerful edge.
It really is. Your brain actually builds stronger connections, a deeper understanding when you give it that sustained focus. Fragmented attention leads to fragmented understanding, it feels like.
That tracks. And like Newport says, the trend towards distraction just makes the person who can concentrate stand out even more.
Okay, so that's deep work. Now let's pivot to flow. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's idea. We've all heard phrases like in the zone or locked in.
Yeah, that's basically it. Flow is this mental state where you're completely immersed, you feel energized, fully involved, and you're actually enjoying the process itself.
Total absorption. And
Yeah.
people talk about time feeling weird, right? Like hours feel like minutes, or the other way around.
Absolutely. That distortion of time is a classic sign. And it's like your actions and your awareness just merge. You're not thinking about doing it, you're just doing it.
So what makes flow happen? It's not just random enjoyment, is it?
No, not at all. Csikszentmihalyi found it arises from a very specific condition, a balance. It's about the challenge of the task meeting your skill level. It has to be engaging enough to demand high concentration.
Ah, okay. So not too easy, not overwhelmingly hard.
Precisely. If your mind wanders because it's too simple or you get anxious because it's too difficult, you pop out of flow. He first noticed this in artists, musicians, surgeons, people who'd get so engrossed they'd forget to eat or sleep.
Wow. Shows how powerful that intrinsic pull can be.
Definitely.
So we have deep work, this deliberate strategy for focused, high-value output, and flow, this state of energized, enjoyable immersion. They sound related.
Very related. Both absolutely hinge on intense focus. And both can lead to amazing results and, frankly, feeling really good about what you're doing.
What's the main difference then, would you say?
I think the main distinction might be the intent. Deep work, as Newport frames it, is often a conscious strategy aimed at productivity and skill building. Flow is more about the quality of the experience itself, that autotelic, intrinsically rewarding feeling.
But they feed each other, presumably. Like, doing deep work could lead to flow.
Oh, for sure. Creating the conditions for deep work, minimizing distractions, focusing intensely, significantly increases your chances of slipping into a flow state.
Right. That makes sense. Let's go back to the value of deep work. Why is it so important now? Newport really hammers this point.
Well, his argument is that the economy increasingly rewards those who can learn complex things quickly and produce high-quality work. Think software development, advanced research, strategic thinking.
Things that require sustained thought.
Exactly. And because the general trend in many workplaces is towards more communication, more meetings, more shallow tasks, the ability to carve out time and actually think deeply becomes a rare commodity.
It's like everyone else is swimming on the surface, and the deep workers are the scuba divers exploring the interesting stuff below.
That's a great analogy. And even in those online discussions we looked at, while people might quibble with some of Newport's examples,
Like a sequel thing, maybe?
yeah, maybe. But the general idea that intense concentration is a superpower today, that seemed to resonate widely. Someone even pointed out, hey, Peter Drucker was saying this decades ago about knowledge workers needing uninterrupted time.
So it's not entirely new, but maybe the distractions are just louder now?
Could be. The fundamental need for focus hasn't changed, perhaps, but the forces working against it certainly have intensified.
Okay, so let's talk more about flow. What are the ingredients? Nakamura and Csikszentmihalyi broke it down into, what, 6 factors?
Yes, 6 key components they identified. First, intense, focused concentration on right now. You're just completely dialed in.
Okay.
Second, that merging of action and awareness we mentioned. You're not self-critiquing, you're just performing. Third, a loss of self-consciousness. You stop worrying about what others think.
That sounds blissful.
It can be. Fourth, a sense of personal control or agency over the situation. Fifth is that altered sense of time. And finally, number 6, the experience is intrinsically rewarding. It's autotelic. The reward is the doing itself.
Like playing music just for the love of it, not for applause.
Exactly. That's a perfect example.
It's amazing how different that sounds from a typical workday, right? Juggling emails, meetings, feeling self-conscious.
Completely. And Csikszentmihalyi had this interesting idea about our brain's limits, which explains why flow needs such focus.
Oh, yeah, the processing capacity thing.
The 110 bits per second idea.
Hmm.
Our conscious attention has a limited bandwidth, basically. He estimated it around 110 bits of information per second.
Which sounds like a lot, but maybe isn't.
Well, consider this. Just understanding normal speech takes up maybe 40, 50, even 60 bits per second of that.
Wow. Okay, so nearly half your bandwidth just to follow a conversation.
Right. So if you're trying to listen to someone and simultaneously work on a complex problem,
Right.
you just don't have the cognitive bandwidth left to do the complex part well. Your attention is overloaded.
That really drives home why multitasking on demanding tasks is basically impossible. You can't focus deeply if your limited attention is split.
Precisely. It highlights why flow requires that freedom from distraction.
Yeah.
All your available bits need to be focused on the task at hand.
So, given these limits, how do we actually get into flow? You mentioned the challenge-skill balance. There's a model for that, isn't there?
Yes, the 8-channel model of flow. It's a way to visualize it. Imagine a graph. One axis is perceived challenge, the other is perceived skill level.
Okay.
Flow happens in the top right quadrant, basically, when both the challenge you perceive and the skills you feel you have are above your personal average. Crucially, they need to be relatively balanced.
So, high challenge, high skill. What happens if they're out of whack?
Well, if the challenge is high, but your skills feel low, that leads to anxiety. You feel overwhelmed.
Makes sense.
If the challenge is low, but your skills are high, you get boredom. It's just not engaging enough. There are other states too, like apathy, low challenge, low skill, or relaxation, low challenge, moderate skill. But flow is really in that sweet spot of being stretched but capable.
And to stay in flow, you probably need the challenge to increase as your skills grow, right?
Exactly, like learning guitar. At first, Twinkle Twinkle is challenging and maybe gets you into flow. But soon, your skills improve, it becomes boring, and you need a more complex piece to find that engagement again.
So it's a dynamic thing. Are there specific conditions that make flow more likely? Schaefer outlined some.
Yeah, Schaefer listed 7 conditions. 1, knowing what to do, clear goals. 2, knowing how to do it, clear methods. 3, knowing how well you're doing, immediate feedback.
Okay, clarity and feedback. Crucial.
4, knowing where to go, if it's like navigation or a longer project. 5, high perceived challenges, as we discussed. 6, high perceived skills, also as discussed. And 7, freedom from distractions.
That last one keeps coming up. Freedom from distractions.
It seems essential for both deep work and flow. You need that protected cognitive space.
It almost sounds like some people might just be better at finding flow. I think I saw something about an autotelic personality.
That's a concept 6A Csikszentmihalyi explored, yeah. The idea is that some individuals might have personality traits that make them more predisposed to experiencing flow.
Like what kind of traits?
Things like high levels of curiosity, persistence, maybe being less driven by ego, and having strong intrinsic motivation, finding joy in the activity itself.
So they naturally seek out challenges and are better at staying focused.
That's the idea. They seem better equipped to create the internal conditions for flow, even when the external environment isn't perfect.
Interesting. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. Cal Newport doesn't just talk about achieving focus. He also talks about why we sometimes fail to focus. This idea of deep procrastination.
Ah, yes, that's a really insightful take, I think. He argues it's often not about being lazy or lacking discipline.
Right, it's something deeper.
He suggests it often stems from not having a truly believable, compelling plan or reason for doing the hard work you're avoiding. There's this internal conflict.
Between what?
He kind of personifies it as the rational brain versus the ancient brain. The rational brain knows I need to finish this report for my job, or I need to study for this degree, societal logic. But the ancient brain, the more primitive, instinctual part, is asking, okay, but why? Why should I burn all this energy on this abstract thing right now? What's the immediate, tangible benefit?
Yeah.
If the only answer is vague, like good grades, the ancient brain isn't buying it.
So it resists spending the energy, leading to procrastination on those deep, demanding tasks.
Exactly. It needs a more concrete, personally meaningful connection to why this effort matters now.
So how does Newport suggest we bridge that gap? How do we convince the ancient brain? He had a process, right?
Yeah, a three-step approach, basically. First, he says, try to get clearer on your own answer to the big question. What makes a good life good? Not a perfect philosophical treatise, but what values, what kinds of experiences truly matter to you.
Okay, define your personal good life.
Step 2, figure out how the specific deep work you're avoiding studying, writing that book, tackling that project, actually supports that vision. How does it connect to what matters to you?
Make the connection explicit.
Right. For example, if a good life for you involves mastery of a craft, then see that difficult project not just as a task, but as a direct opportunity to build that mastery you value.
Okay. Frame it differently.
And step 3 is then identifying the specific tactics and plans to actually succeed in leveraging that project for your larger goal. It's about making the why much more concrete and personal, giving that ancient brain a compelling reason to engage.
That reframing, seeing the task as serving a deeper personal value, like mastery that feels powerful, it's not just about the external goal anymore.
Precisely. It connects the effort to intrinsic motivation.
Speaking of things that derail focus, our research also touched on workplace distractions. ToggleTrack had some pretty stark findings about meetings, didn't they?
Oh yeah, their data painted a pretty grim picture. Unnecessary meetings, poorly run meetings, just a massive drain on time and focus.
And morale, probably.
Definitely morale and productivity. They quantified it, suggesting huge numbers of hours wasted per employee each year, translating into real costs. It directly undermines any attempt at deep work.
And interestingly, they found in-person meetings were often seen as more distracting than remote ones.
Yeah, which is maybe counterintuitive, but perhaps it speaks to the side conversations, the lack of clear agendas, the difficulty of disengaging politely, all barriers to focus.
It just highlights how the environment really matters. It's clear this whole focus thing is a big deal for lots of people. When we looked at that Reddit discussion on deep work, it wasn't all praise, though. People had different experiences.
No, absolutely. There were definitely some critical perspectives, which is important. Some folks felt the examples Newport used didn't quite fit their job reality.
Like if your job is constant reactivity, responding to urgent requests.
Exactly. If you're in, say, emergency services or certain kinds of client support, long blocks of uninterrupted time might just not be feasible or even desirable. The job demands responsiveness.
That's a fair point. The model might need adapting depending on the role.
There was also debate about whether this is truly a new problem caused by the internet or just the latest version of an old challenge. And some felt the concept could be oversimplified.
It's good to have those nuances. Not every job fits the knowledge worker shutting the door stereotype.
Definitely not. Context is key.
So, acknowledging those different realities, what are some practical things listeners can actually try, drawing from all these ideas, even if they can't block out 4 hours straight?
Okay, practical takeaways. One clear one is carving out some dedicated time, even if it's short blocks, maybe just 30 minutes, maybe 60, but making it sacred.
Protect that time. Turn off notifications.
Absolutely. Minimize distractions ruthlessly during that block. Close tabs, silence the phone, find a quiet corner if possible. That's straight from Newport and the flow conditions. Try to match the task to your current state. Find something that hits that challenge skills sweet spot to encourage flow. And connecting back to the procrastination point, get clear on your why. Why are you doing this task? Make it meaningful.
Any other techniques mentioned?
Yeah, some interesting ideas came up online. One person mentioned using speed listening for podcasts or audiobooks to force greater concentration.
Oh, interesting. Like you have to focus or you miss it.
Right. And another mentioned the value of time tracking for a week or two, just to see where the time actually goes. That awareness can be the first step to finding pockets for more focused work.
That time tracking idea sounds revealing. And the speed listening, it highlights that technology isn't always the enemy here, does it?
No, that's a really important point. It's not about rejecting tech wholesale. Newport emphasizes minimizing distractions, but technology can also be a tool for focus.
Like noise-canceling headphones or focus apps, or even just using tech intentionally, like with speed listening.
Exactly. The key word is intentionality. Are you using the tool consciously to support your goals, or is it using you, pulling your attention away?
Right. It's about conscious choices. So if we were to boil this all down, what are the main things you'd want someone listening to take away from this deep dive?
I think number one is just recognizing the sheer power of focused attention. Whether you call it deep work or chasing flow, that ability to concentrate deeply is incredibly valuable.
For learning, for producing quality work, for satisfaction.
All of the above. Number two, that sweet spot for flow, finding tasks that challenge you appropriately, matching your skills. And number three, the importance of having a compelling personal why to push through the friction and resist procrastination.
So focus, challenge skill balance, and a strong why.
Pretty much. Cultivating these isn't just about being more productive in a narrow sense. It's about learning more effectively, achieving more meaningful things, and honestly, probably enjoying the process a lot more.
Yeah, finding more satisfaction in the work itself. Okay, here's a final thought to leave you with. In this world that constantly demands fragmented attention, that thrives on clicks and scrolls, how can you personally start to intentionally design your life, your work, your learning to create more space for that deep, focused engagement, not just for the output, but for the richness of the experience itself?
That's the real challenge, isn't it? Making that conscious choice.
Definitely something to mull over. And if this has sparked your interest, seriously, check out the original books by Cal Newport and Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Lots more depth there.
Absolutely worth a read.
Thanks for taking the deep dive with us today.